This is the best football show. I'm Brian Baldinger, and that's Mark Schlereth right there. You can find this wherever you download your apps. This is an Odyssey app. Download it, like it, subscribe to it. It's free, and it's good because, honestly, me and Mark here, we don't script a thing. We literally pop on here, and whatever's on the top of our head, we're going to talk about. We feel like, Mark, honestly, at this point of the season, we've seen the dredge of this business. We've seen the great stuff of this business. So I got two questions for you, Mark, just to kind of fire things up here. I was in Cleveland last week, and I have a lot of respect for Wyatt Teller, Ethan Posick, Batonio. Like, they're a good group. They chop it up. But if you get bad quarterback play, Mark, where guys are sacking themselves, can't get to a progression, like it just looks ugly to everybody watching. Until you turn the tape on, you go, like, these guys are pretty good inside. And we see bad quarterback play. It's hard as you're an announcer for Fox, Mark, if you get bad quarterback play to keep people interested. And I'm just curious your take when you see that, where we're in the backups, we're the 13 guys, all this, and these guys up front are battling their butts off up front against a good defensive front in Miami, and they can't put a touchdown on the board, Mark.
Yeah. It's interesting. To me, I had this conversation with Sean Payton. This is probably 2 months ago. And we were just talking about sacks in general.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was like, listen, dude, man, I think sacks have become a quarterback-driven statistic.
Yeah.
And an offensive coordinator-driven statistic. Like, when you and I played, man, we had a bunch of 7-step drops, right? Yeah. I mean, this was mono, 7-step drop. I got bigger balls than you got, right? Yeah. Let's go. Mm-hmm. And it was a different time. And it wasn't, the 7-step drops that are run in today's league are play pass, 7-step drop,
max protection,
7 or 8 man protection stuff, right? Yep. You might get a back that leaks out in the flat late. You're running a 2-man route. You're running post. You're running post with an over.
Post dig, right?
Yeah, right. That's what you're running. So it's really interesting to watch how the game is played today. And so I always think about it this way: if you give up 7 or 8 sacks, it's not your offensive line that sucks. It's your play caller and your quarterback that suck. Yeah. And most of the time, a lot of the time, it's the play caller. But I would look at it like this. If I'm a play caller and I'm going to drop back 35 times, I've got to get that down to about 12 legitimate pass rush opportunities for the opponent.
Yeah.
So, and the way I always look at it, like if I'm dropping back 35 times, okay, how many 3-step drops? Let's say I got 5 3-step drops, right? Now I'm down to 30. Let's say I do 5 5-step drops with no hitch. Now I'm down to 25, okay? Now I've got all my hard run action, play action stuff off my passing game, right? Off the boot keep stuff and stuff.
And you're doing it on first down.
Right.
Where the defense is really
Right, yeah. So I got 5 of those. Now I'm down to 20 times where we have to hold up in pass protection. Okay, now I've got my bubble screens and my swing pass and my screen game, right? I got 5 of those. All right, now I'm down to 15. And then I've got a couple of 5-step drops that don't really have like maybe 1 hitch. We should be able to hold up where I can. Like, one of the things I always say when I consult with teams, Baldy, is I'm trying to take the passive out of pass protection. So how many different tools can you put in my tool belt? And I talk about this all the time. Like, hey, man, you could ask me to build a deck for you, right? And I could build you, you could give me all the lumber and say, hey, man, I want you to build this deck. But if you only give me a hammer, I'll stack the wood up. But don't step on the damn thing because it's not going to be worth a shit, right? I need a level. I need a saw. I need a drill. I need some screws. I can build you a deck. But what a lot of offensive coordinators ask offensive linemen to do is say, here's a deck. Build us a deck. Here's all the wood, but we're not going to give you any tools to build it with. And that's the biggest issue. So you could have a good group like you talked about in Cleveland, and you give them the tools to be successful. You're just not going to be successful.
So I'm watching this play on Sunday with the Jets. The Jets are a disaster, right? But,
oh, my gosh.
But they gave up a safety, right? So everybody mugs the A-gaps, Mark. They've been mugging the A-gaps in protection forever. Yeah. So it's week 17. What are your rules? If the quarterback's in shotgun, under center, you got a back. Aaron Rodgers sends the back out. you now have 6 potential rushers. You got your guys in the A gap. You got your ends and your tackles, and they give up. The left tackle is uncertain what he's doing. The left guard did a pretty good job of stepping. My guy bails. I immediately turn out. I take the tackle. The tackle is slow to do anything, and the end comes and sacks Aaron Rodgers in the end zone, and Aaron looks like he's surprised. And I'm looking at this play, and I'm going, what are your basic rules of protection? We all share the same basic rules, Mark. Like, how is it? Yeah. I know we walk through it. We talk through it. We're in the film room. We're spending off seasons walking through our rules. And I'm watching a team that's a disaster. I get it. But, rules are rules. I don't care if you're in Detroit and you're 14-2, or if you're in New York and you've won 4 stinking games. How do we not know these rules in week 17?
I have no idea. I really don't. And I was a stickler. I was a professional freaking football player, right? I don't make mistakes. I don't bust plays. I don't bust assignments. I just didn't. And it wasn't because I'm smarter than everybody else. It's because I prepared and, I studied that stuff. Yeah. But the bottom line is I used to. So are you still there with me? Okay. So I used to say it to my guys all the time. My offensive line coach, my offensive coordinator, what's my rule? I want to know what the rule is, right? Yeah. Because I'm not going to be the one that takes the negative grade on this. So you tell me what the rule is, and we're going to operate this way with this standard. And the old adage is, he who hesitates is lost. Correct?
Yeah.
So I want to know. Yeah, I want to know right now, because I want to play fast, man.
Yes.
The key to this game is to be able to play fast, to see things, to take information in through your eyes, right? Yeah. To be able to process that information quickly and make a snap decision and be right. And we all have to be able to do that across the line. And I'm not just talking about offensive line. I'm talking about running backs. I'm talking about tight ends. I'm talking about everybody. So the rule part of that is imperative. I need to know the rule. And we had the double-A walk-up rules, one of the first things I think about when I get a walk-up linebacker is always, for me, I want a little depth off the ball in my set, right? And I don't want to I'm fighting pick stunts. So if he walks up my head gap, I'm alerting my center, right? Okay, here we come. I don't want you to get ear-holed, right? I'm going to feed you through the mouth. I want you to get a little depth off of that, right? So you don't get picked. And I want to be able to pick up that game. There's a bunch of little rules that you think about when these things happen. And I watch guys, I don't know how you were taught, with inside walk-up stuff, or inside, you're blocking back on a nose or whatever. But I always have come from the belief is, if you line up on my inside shade, let's say you're lined up here, I want to keep you right there. I don't ever want to get in the middle of you, right? I don't want this. I want to keep you right here and use the body presence of other guys to help block you. And so you get into these situations where I watch technique, and I'm appalled by a ton of the technique. I've got San Francisco, Arizona this week.
Yeah,
I'm watching some things in Arizona that I'm just I have to close my eyes, Baldy. It's what are we coaching? What are we doing? Do you guys listen? Are you getting coached to do these things? It just is interesting to watch because it's such a skilled position, and it's so imperative. And honestly, it's so poorly played at a lot of places. One of my great joys in life, and I know you live and you spend a lot of time in Philly looking at film and doing all that stuff. Baldy, one of my great joys in life is watching the Eagles play. Because I can just sit down and go, I know Stoutland's got these guys coached up. I'm like, ooh, I like that technique. Ooh, I like what they're doing there. Ooh, I like it's whenever I need to get refreshed right after watching a bunch of garbage, I'll go watch Philly film. Just, all's right in the world again.
The thing is, though, Mark, back when you were with the Redskins or even the Devils, you guys had depth, right?
Yeah.
You were Hogs, you had 7, you were 8 deep, 9 deep. So the next guy went in, Grimm went down for whatever reason, you went in, whatever it was. I'm watching the Eagles, and they lose Jordan Mailata for a month. Fred Johnson goes in. He looks like he's a frontline left tackle, right? I'm watching Landon Dickerson go down last week. Tyler Steen steps in. There's been zero, and Leonard Dixon's a great player, so is Malata.
Yeah.
There's been zero drop-off when those guys go in. Becton goes out for a play. Here comes Steen. Like, it's unbelievable how prepared. But here's what's interesting, Mark. Like, I don't know how many Eagle games you've done this year. I'm sure over the last couple of years you've done a few.
Yeah.
But what's interesting with Stoutland, and I don't see it anywhere else in the league, he's got his starters out there game day, walking through with the bags, the whole thing, walking through looks, walking through combo blocks, walking through stunts. Like, I've seen Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson out there for an hour pregame. I would rather do that than look at my playbook and mentally go through it. I'd rather walk through it in 2 hours for a kickoff and just have it down pat than be in my locker room. I mean, I like cutting it up and everything too, but like I'd rather be fully prepared for what might happen out there. And I see it. I don't see any other team doing it, Mark.
Yeah, I haven't either. I always used to go out as a player. I would make sure that, I checked the shoes that I wanted to wear based on the turf that we're playing on. So I always had a bunch of shoes with me, right? The other thing is once I figured out what shoe I go back and forth into the locker room, right? Checking out shoes and feeling traction. Because, especially when you're playing on artificial turf or you're playing on that, the stuff that they have now, kind of half and half or whatever it is, like, dude, there are certain shoes that get too sticky. That was a bigger problem for me is I don't want too sticky, right?
Yeah, I wore those tennis shoes on those old turf shoes.
Yeah, so there was always that. But then I would go through every part of the field. And I'd get coming off of one end zone, going into one end zone, coming off the end zone, each hash mark. And it was probably a good 45-minute process of going through every spot on the field, find out if there's a divot somewhere, if there's a hole somewhere, if there's and you go through it. Now, the fields are probably better today than they were when you and I were playing, right? Especially in the vet. That place was a hole, as you well know. But just to be prepared, like, you just got to be prepared for every little thing. And you're 100% right about Stoutland. And you're right. In our day, we had our starting five, but all our backups were, 4-year starters somewhere else that had gotten in their 8th or 9th year, a little bit beat up. But you knew, hey, man, if we lose a guy for a game or 2 or 3 or whatever, this dude's going to come in. This guy's got experience. Now, in today's game, what they do is part of where they save money is backup offensive linemen. So they get a bunch of young first and second year guys who, no offense to them, but they're not worth a score to piss. They haven't been coached. They're not ready to play. And it's incredible to me that you would have $100 million plus, $250 million plus, $300 million plus quarterback, right? And after you're starting five, you got a bunch of guys that you don't trust to put in the game that aren't ready to play. And it blows me away. So let me get this straight. So you're going to invest $300 million plus on your quarterback, and you're going to protect him with a minimum wage, $500,000 a year player who can't play. Like, please explain to me how that makes sense to anybody.
Well, all you have to do, to your point, just look at the Chicago Bears. You're going to go out. The Chicago Bears are the prime example of what you're explaining right now, because they've got 5 backups there. Maybe the right tackle can become a player, but they got 5 backups there with the number 1 pick in the draft, and he's playing a style of football that nobody ever survives in, and nobody ever wins in. You can't play this frenetic style. Like, it just doesn't work in this business. It never has. It never will. You're never going to stay healthy. But, that's the prime example.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting you say that, because this offseason, everybody was like, oh, the Bears are set. The Bears, weapons.
They got these receivers.
The weapons. They've got Dunze, and they've got, they got Keenan Allen, and they've got DJ Moore, and then they've got Komet at the tight end position, and, they went out and got Swift, and woohoo, we got a rookie quarterback. And I'm like, I don't know if you guys realize this, but if you can't protect it, like, 10 other guys have to do their jobs exceptionally well for you to sniff a football. And why you think that's going to change is beyond me. If you can't control line of scrimmage, and, inevitably, it always happens this way. We're rolling toward the playoffs. Show me the teams with the best offensive lines, the best groups, right? The guys that control line of scrimmage the best. And I'll show you all the teams that are in the playoffs. Detroit, Philadelphia, like they're both awesome, right? Minnesota has been really good on both lines of scrimmage.
And
like
Minnesota lost their left tackle, who's a very good player.
Yeah,
and what they do, they were
Darnold.
traded for Cam Robinson. Like, they didn't fool around with their backup. Like, the backup is about, they went and got themselves a guy that's been a starter in this league. Hats off to Minnesota. Like, you've got this thing rolling. Keep it rolling. All right. A couple things about Minnesota. It's interesting, Mark. Just watch it. Aaron Jones in blitz pickup. Like, remember those drills back when we used to actually have 2-a-days? Yeah. Where it would be blitz pickup drill day. And, you've had some of the great running backs there in Denver, but, like, it was blitz pickup day. It was, okay, we're going to buckle it up today. And I'm watching Aaron Jones. You don't get that opportunity to do that stuff now. Like, there's an old saying, I always believe that you step up to clean it up, you back up, you give it up. I'm watching Aaron Jones go and stick these linebackers from Green Bay, and it never, ever got started. And Darnold, when that quarterback feels like he's protected, his eyes stay down the field. They don't drop. I saw Aaron Jones at blitz pickup, and I go, that got me excited in the film room, Mark.
Dude, I love that. What is it? You step up. How do you say?
Clean it up. Step up, clean it up. You back up, you give it up.
Give it up. Yes.
It's the same with linebackers stepping up. Yeah. And taking that double team off of the guard center, whatever it is, like, step up and clean it up. And that was one of those things I always believed in.
So we always had, we were always a great blitz pickup team everywhere I played. It had nothing to do with me. It was the way we were coached, what we believed in, the philosophy. But one of the best backs I've ever played with at any level, and Terrell Davis, 2,000 yards. Terrell was one of the great backs I ever played. But Ernest Biner was one of the best backs I've ever played with in my entire career. Catching the ball, running the ball, but blitz pickup. And one of the things I used to talk to him about was he always closed that distance, and he wanted to attack the linebacker in the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
And the point of attacking him in the line of scrimmage is because then
you can bounce him off somebody.
Right, exactly. You get up in the B gap, you got a tackle to your right, you got a guard to your left, right? And there's not a whole lot of room. So you're not going to give up that big swing move or whatever over the top, man. You're going to get up there and attack that line of scrimmage and take the fight to the backer. And great blitz pickup guys do that. You wait. If you sit back and wait, you're going to get trucked. Yeah. It's just a fact. And so I love that. I love the whole thought process as I've always gained ground, get into the line of scrimmage, the blitz pickup guy, and the odds are you're going to have success. And even if the guy tries a big, huge swim move, odds are he's going to trip over somebody's feet. He's going to get caught up in the wash, and you're still going to win. So it's always about one of the things I always thought as a player, Baldy, was where can I not get beat? In this protection, in this, run game, in this whatever, where can I not get beat? Because I'm going to always protect against that. And then where can I funnel you where I have help? And ultimately, when you gain ground as a blitz pickup guy, now if you funnel them inside or out, you're going to have body presence of defensive tackles and offensive guards and centers and tackles. So, I love that thought process.
I feel like, pass protection to me has gotten a lot easier, Mark, than when we played. I mean, we used to have to scat, like inside, outside. You're in that bubble guard position right there. You're reading inside, outside. I remember pulling from the right guard, going to block outside Lawrence Taylor out. Like, we would pull to keep everything, so you could get the back out. We would have to do the job of the back. Like, I feel like those kind of protections have all gone away. Maybe in part because they're in shotgun so much now. They're not under center, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the old I used to hate, man. You get the dual read, right?
Yeah, the dual read.
And you go from a backer to an edge player, and sometimes you go like from backer to defensive end if they had another. And so, like, I remember dual reading from a backer to Reggie White, and you're like, you really?
Let's limit these.
Good luck. Hey, quarterback, you better get this one out quick because this is going to be a mismatch out there on the edge. If I have to pop out there and pick that dude up.
Last one here, Mark. We got a great game Sunday night here, Detroit and Minnesota. We've never seen 2 14-2 teams battle it up for number one seed. I was watching Minnesota at home last week against Green Bay, and I have a lot of respect for Jonathan Grenard, the outside pass rusher of the Vikings. They really did their scouting, the homework. He's a very skilled player. But, Green Bay is playing in Minnesota. I'm only saying this because it's going to be in Detroit now. So you got to flip it. So silent counts and how you handled it, Mark, because I'm watching Rasheed Walker, who's a good player in Green Bay, but he's looking at the ball, like Grenard's off on the snap, and he's late. And Grenard turned the corner on him, and, Jordan Love gets crushed. And I'm saying to myself, you've got to have that ability, especially a tackle, not so much a guard, but it's important at guard, to be able to see both the ball and your man. And how you work on that. You can have all the noise you want at practice. You've got to train your ability to be able to see the ball, because you're not going to hear anything, and you got to see your man. And I know I remember playing one time at guard in New Orleans in a playoff game in that dome, and I didn't hear Randall Cunningham the whole day. But I had a good job of being able to see the ball in my man to be able to at least get decent sets and not get beat off the snap.
Right.
What would you say, Mark, when you're training young guys in this situation, and the atmosphere is going to be like in Detroit this weekend?
Yeah, it's always one of those things. There's a million different ways I've been coached over my career, right? From the stupid ass where we hold hands, right? When you drop the hand, that's the dumbest thing.
Never did it.
Oh, dude, I would just be like, when I had a coach, I did it one time, and I was like, I'm never doing that again because that doesn't work. And so it's funny how some of those conversations, transpire. And then, the whole trying to look in and trying to look at your guy and all that kind of stuff. We just developed a system. The best thing that worked for us, and everybody's different, was, one thing about offensive snap count, it's our one weapon. So as well as I do, we all jump the snap count, right? If it's on 2, we're going on 1 1/4. If it's on 3, we're going on 2 1/4.
Yeah.
And so everybody jumps the snap count. So we developed a real rhythmic, rhythmic timing to our snap count, where we're all really good at getting off on the same time. So we had an indicator, which was the center's head. And it was just it was different every time, right? Like it might be 1 hop, it might be 2 hops, whatever. And then we had an indicator, like when he did that, all right, now it's 1,000, 1,000, and go. So it's and so you just had it in your head, and so we all worked on it so religiously that as soon as you saw him give the indicator, you're peeking inside. Now I'm getting outside my eyes on my guy, and I count in my head. I'm counting, and I'm gone. And so we got it to the point where we were so dialed in on the timing of the snap count and the timing of our indicator. It's almost like pitching. Mm-hmm. Like you're getting an indicator, you're getting a sign, and now we're going. And so that's kind of how we did it. And that was because it was an absolute bitch to play in Kansas City. It was the hardest place I ever played. Yeah. And there's a lot of places that were tough, but that was the toughest one. And at least I felt like I had a fighting chance when we had that system. But again, you've got to be one of the issues is, Baldy, as today's game is a little bit different from personnel changes and all the different things you're doing, right? So we always had a pretty consistent group that played together, right, and worked together, and were there at every practice, and so we were really dialed in together on all that stuff. But that was for me, that was where we had the best rhythmic, we kept our rhythm best and silent on that kind of rhythmic cadence.
Okay. Final game this weekend, Denver has to beat Kansas City. Everybody just assumes, Mark. I mean, I don't think Kansas City's going to play any of their starters. They don't need to.
Right.
But everybody just assumes that if you have, not that I don't believe varsity JV, but if you've got Carson Wentz and you've got your backups in there, and you're going to rest your starters, Chris Jones, whether it's Kelsey, whatever, that somehow it's just a slam dunk win. And I never agreed with that. I've seen that backfire with teams plenty of times. And it can backfire against Denver this weekend if they go in there with that mindset. How would you – what's Sean Payton saying to his guys to make sure that doesn't happen to him this week?
Yeah, well, I think number one, all you'd have to do is go back to last season. I called the game in San Francisco with the Rams, San Francisco, last game of the season. Carson Wentz played. Yeah. And Carson Wentz played really good. Plus, he had 17 rushing. He's, the dude is every bit of 6'5", 245 pounds.
He's a sideboard, Mark. He's a sideboard.
So he's playing fullback quarterback, right? He's running over people, and so the Rams win that. And I talked about it on my show Breakfast Ball this morning. I was like, listen, man, when he got his opportunity in 2021, when they were 9-8, and I get it, that he didn't play well in the playoff game, but he had 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He played pretty good football, had 3,600 yards plus of passing. So he played pretty damn good football for the most part. And I'm like, he's watching the league. He's watching what Sam Darnold did with a year of kind of rehab. He's been in now under Andy Reid. He's been in that offense. He's gotten a year of football rehab. Why can't I get the opportunity to do what Sam Darnold just did in a quarterback where or in a league where there's a dearth of quarterbacks? Why can't I be the next guy? So I guarantee you one thing. Carson Wentz is a dude, man. Guys like Carson Wentz. You've been around Carson Wentz. He's a dude, right? He takes all those guys hunting and everything. I know this, man. They're going to play hard. They're going to play hard. And he's playing for an opportunity to put that film on so where some other team goes, well, listen, man, there's not a lot of great options in this year's draft with the quarterback. Why not Carson Wentz?
Yeah.
I agree with you. It scares me.
Well, I mean, all we have to do is look at the evidence of Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. Look at these guys in stable places and look at how they flourish, the two of them. I mean, but it's more than that. Look at these guys flourish when you actually build a good roster. You actually, have a good offensive mind, creative mind. Like, there's no doubt that Carson's got plenty of football left in him if he found that level of stability.
He's 32 years old, and I will tell you, and you know this, man. Just because you coach in the NFL doesn't mean you're a good coach. And there's plenty of bad coaching in the NFL. And it's interesting because Baker Mayfield leaves, he leaves Cleveland. He goes to Carolina, right? He bounces around. He gets to the Rams, even though it's only for 4 or 5 weeks. He finds that stability of Sean McVay's offense. Maybe it was a little bit less. It was maybe 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it was. But then he gets into that same level of offense when Dave Canales takes over in Tampa, and he builds on that knowledge. I've told you before, man, Sam Darnold declined other opportunities to go and potentially be a starter so that he could go learn a progression offense under Kyle Shanahan.
No doubt.
And so now he leaves Kyle Shanahan and he goes to Kevin O'Connell, which is the same offense, language-wise, it's the same. Now Kevin O'Connell he wants to use more 3 wides and 3 wide personnel and 11 personnel than Kyle wants to use a fullback and more traditional West Coast offense. But it's all the same. Your adjuster is your F. So whether your F is the third receiver, or your F is your second tight end, or your F is your fullback, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. That's the guy that's adjusting, right? That's the guy that's motioning and doing all those things. So, it's just a different personnel package, but all the language is the same. So why not Carson Wentz after a year of rehab? Look what it did for Nick Foles. Nick Foles was out of the league. He was going to retire. Andy Reid goes, hey, come play with me for a while. He goes and obviously gets that opportunity in Jacksonville, and he gets the opportunity in Philadelphia.
Even Jared Goff right now is playing the best football, but he's got a coach that absolutely, and we all know this, you can get paid a lot of money by a team. Right. I mean, God bless the guys that can do it. It doesn't mean that the organization's behind you or believes in you. Like, we see that all the time. Just funny money in free agency. But that coach and that organization believes in Jared Goff, and he knows it. And he can't go someplace else and play at this level because he's never going to get that level of belief in him. Right. And so that's what it takes. Like, once that guy you watch Justin Herbert with Jim Harbaugh now, like, he's a completely rebuilt guy. Completely rebuilt. Like, his confidence level has never been higher. But that coach believes in him, and he lets it know it every single day. And I don't think when you say there's never enough good coaches, Mark. But that's why we're going to get this cycle starting on Monday all over again. And we'll probably, find 4 or 5 new guys or whatever that really don't know themselves if they can do it or not. I mean, we're just thrust. We'll just throw Ben Johnson in there. Let him talk to 53 guys in the room. I don't know if Ben Johnson can do it. I really don't. I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah, nobody does. And you never know. But I always say this, I'll leave it at this, my best advice for raising kids was believe in them.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just believe in them and then support the crap out of them, right? And just believe in them. And it's amazing what they'll be able to do. And the same goes for your players, man. You got to coach them up. You got to be hard on them sometimes. You got to do all that stuff. Like, that's part of it's like parenting. But you gotta believe in the guys you have and give them an environment to grow and thrive. And Baker's got that in Tampa. It's been awesome to see him just blossom. It's awesome to see Sam Darnold. I spent so much time talking to Sam Darnold the last 2 weeks of the season last year because I had San Francisco week 17, week 18. And, man, to watch what he's done this year, I felt like celebrating that locker room with the Minnesota Vikings. I was like, this is awesome, man. It was great.
It's great. Mark, you're great, man. This has been fun. Trench Talk here. Happy New Year to you, Mark. You and your family. And let's do this next week, getting ready for the playoffs here, buddy.
Absolutely, Baldy, man. Always good to talk to you. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you too, Mark. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks.